Tapi di sini suaraku kecil banget. Tes. Itu tanpa clear bisa ya? Masih ego mungkin ya.
Jadi untuk saya sama
saya juga oke. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, all the distinguished participants, harnessing urban and regional resilience in the era of global.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Ceremony. Next, we would like to give a warm welcome to the Honorable Ibu Professor Dr. Sri Mariati as the Dean to express our sincere gratitude to all the speakers we have today. Dr. Riela Driandra, an associate at the School of Social Science, Dr. Yen Sali Rahayu, a postdoctoral fellow at Tokyo College. Today we have our associate professor at the School of Social Science, Waseda University, and also our moderator, Dr. Fikri Fahmi, an assistant professor at SF. Opening remark from the Dean of SAPPK, followed by the presentation of the speakers, then move to the discussion session, Q&A, and closing. And for more, I would inform a brief participant rules that to turn off the microphone during the event unless requested by the moderator. Number 2, to ask questions. And for the virtual participant who joined through YouTube, should write their question in the chat column. Written question in the chat column institution the target even before the Q&A session begin or during the presentation of the speakers. The written question will be by the moderator and microphone and deliver directly after being mentioned by the moderator. And last, the organization will the rights to I would like to invite the Dean of SAPPK ITB, Ibu Profesor Dr. Sri Mariati, to give the opening remark.
Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Konnichiwa for all of of you from Japan. Greeting from ITB Indonesia. The seventh session of the School of Architecture Planning and Policy Development webinar series with the theme Sustainable Development in Built Environment. The topic of the webinar today is harnessing urban and regional resilience, held regularly in our school, School of Architecture Planning and Policy Development, Institut Teknologi Bandung. This of discussion from expert and policy development. The webinar today is supported by Waseda University and the University of Tokyo and the webinar and the University of Tokyo. Thank you very much for the support for this collaboration from our colleague from the University of Tokyo and from the Waseda University. That our collaboration on behalf of Institut Teknologi Bandung, I would like to welcome all of the speakers for today. School of Architecture Planning and Policy Development ITB, and Dr. Yen Seli Rahayu from the University of Tokyo. Arigatou gozaimasu. The discussion, Dr. Megumi Kagawa from Waseda University. Arigatou gozaimasu, Sensei. And the moderator Zulfahmi from School of Architecture and Policy Development ITB. I believe our webinar today will produce insightful lesson, ideas, knowledge.
Thank you so much, Ibu Sri Mariati, for the remark. Okay, everyone, now we have come to the main agenda, and all the presentation and discussion will be guided by our moderator. He received his bachelor degree from ITB in 2010. He pursued his master's and doctoral degree in spatial science in 2016, and he does research in creative and cultural industries, regional economic development, and livability. Okay, Bapak Fikri.
Before I start, may I check the connection? Do you hear my voice? Especially for participants joining from, if you hear my voice clearly.
It's not that clear for us. I don't know, Kagawa Sensei, can you also confirm it?
That's very clear.
The voice is not clear. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, good.
Me if you can hear my voice clearly, right? All right, let's start. Selamat siang. On harnessing urban and regional resilience in the era of global crisis, organized by School of Architecture, Planning and Politics of the University of Tokyo in Japan. As we know, resilience is a buzzword. It is an important item. Resilience has become even more popular, especially after COVID, or at least for me, who is doing research on resilience after the pandemic. And the pandemic since then. Today we have three amazing speakers who will talk about multidisciplinary perspective on Dr. Rila Drianda on urban resilience, Dr. Nurrahman Wijaya on climate change resilience in urban context, and also Dr. Salia Rahayu on biodiversity resilience and presentation 15 minutes respectively, and then we will have a discussion or comments from Professor Megumi Kagawa, who will give comments and speakers, and then we'll continue with question and questions, and please type your questions in the chat. Section of the session. So it seems that audience in the Zoom cannot hear us clearly. Follow the gorilla. Can you okay, we'll try to fix the issue. Baik banget ya. Bisa. Gorilla, can you gila ya. Check.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
We start to reconnect everybody. So can we monitor whether you can hear our voice clearly?
Oh, now it's much better.
It's much better now. Okay, all right. All right. Shall I repeat the introduction then? So, very well, audience. In the era of global crisis, organized by SAPPD at Bandung Institute of Technology, Waseda University, and Tokyo College of the University of Tokyo. Today we have three presenters who will give their presentation each 15 minutes, 15 minutes each, and then will be continued by a discussion from Professor Megumi Kagawa, and then we'll also have the questions and answer from the audience. So if you have any questions or comments, please type in the chat box, or I will also, if we have some room for discussion, we can also, I will invite you to address it directly at the end of the session. So and for the first opportunity, I will give it to the first speaker, Dr. Rila Pravidrianda. She is an associate professor of urban studies in the transnational and interdisciplinary studies in social innovation in the Faculty of Social Sciences at Waseda University, Japan. She earned her PhD in spatial planning from Chiba University with honors. And her teaching areas include urban culture, creativity, urban studies, and social design. She has been awarded 2 prestigious teaching awards from Waseda University between pop culture and cities, the German remnants in Japanese cities, and the creative preservation of urban heritage assets. Today, Burila will present her topic is about rethinking archaeological sites for urban resilience. Burila, so 50 minutes is yours.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, please wait. Let me share my screen. Oh, wait. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, hello, salam for everyone. Thank you for having me today. My name is Rila, and today I'll be talking about my ongoing research that explores the remnants of the Jomon civilization in the greater Tokyo area. So as we only have probably less than 15 minutes, so let me just skip my introduction and start my presentation with the following content. So to fit my research theme with the given webinar title, so I'm kind of questioning myself about the roles that urban archaeological sites can play in strengthening the urban and communities' resilience, and also how to make them relevant to modern living. So, so that they will be more resistant to the development pressures. And I guess several years ago, I guess our understanding of the potential crisis that could jeopardize the sustainabilities of cities and their inhabitants may have been quite limited. But as Dr. Fikri said, that the COVID-19 pandemic has served valuable lessons, highlighting the gravity of all potential crises that we face, and somehow shedding light on our vulnerability when confronted with a pandemic or endemic outbreak. So these days with the escalating occurrence of wildfires, for example, and food and energy inflation, we eventually recognize that our future may be very dark if we do not act, and if we do not take this seriously. So over the past few years, I have developed a keen interest in this Jomon civilization, which is often regarded as one of the most sustainable civilizations in Japanese history. So Jomon is actually the earliest historical era of Japan. It was the period when humans were still engaging in hunting and gathering activities. So I found that this civilization unique and interesting. For example, their food management system was very organized. And instead of spending all the food resources in one place and then moving to another place to find new resources, so the Jomon people had carefully plan the amount of food that their unit group could eat, so they could stay longer in one place. So this somehow break my own assumption that people in the Stone Age period were always nomadic creatures who move around a lot just to forage. So like this civilization shows that they try to stay as long as possible in a place by using the existing resources as wisely as possible. So there are like some discoveries where that signified that one land was actually inhabited by the Jomong people and then still continuously inhabited by the next civilization that learned how to grow crops and also domesticate animals. And of course, like there are many discoveries that really fascinate me about this civilization. So I began to explore the remnants of Jomong in Tokyo, so the greater Tokyo area, I mean, to advance my understanding of this civilization. And like the reason why I chose this site is that I want to know about like how the archaeological sites can still be preserved and also relevant in the busy megapolis region. So the Jomong remnants, actually they can be discovered across Japan, but the largest sites they were discovered in this northern part, like Hokkaido and Tohoku. And they actually have like many patterns of settlements. Like, for example, a simple site would be comprised of the residential function, but like the complex one would have like more functions, such as like a dam and a retail site. And like these two pictures show the remnants of Jomong house, known as the pit house or pit dwelling. And Japanese scholars argued that the typical Jomong house had, some pillars that was driven to the ground like this, and it was usually surrounded by other wooden posts. So yeah, this is the common reconstructed landscape that is usually displayed at local museums. While in a more complex settlement, it was argued that the central plaza, like this one, was often used as the village cemetery. Also, they used this type of common area for community space, village meeting, and also ceremonies. And it was discovered that the Jomong people had already paved like an established kind of like a path, like a road to connect their settlements to the sea and river. So like today I'll be sharing some findings from these two sites, like Jomong Village, which is situated in Tamashiti, Tokyo, and the second one is Kasariso Mound, located in Chiba City. Well, first, like I would like to introduce like the roles of these sites in providing urban forests and trees for busy cities like Tokyo and Chiba. So like this first site is situated in Tamayo Town, which actually it was like a new town development project that was launched in 1965. So like the site itself is situated about 8 minutes on foot from the nearest train station. And apart from being accessible by public transportation, like the area is also located very close to Tama's commercial districts. For example, if you know Sanrio Purolan theme park, so like the site is situated very close to that theme park. And the site consists of this indoor and also like outdoor facility. And this one is actually like the office of the Tokyo's Archaeological Center, and the museum itself is located on the first floor and is open freely to the public. While the other facility, it serves as an archaeological garden, which is also we can consider this as a small urban forest that preserves similar vegetation from the Jomong period. And according to the staff, like they actually purposefully preserve trees and plants that were used by the Jomong people to help the modern society understand, for example, like which vegetation can be used in our daily lives. For example, like bamboo, I'm sure that we know about this, but for example, like strawberry trees and chestnut trees are pretty new to me, for example, because probably like my expertise is a bit different. So like the staff showed how strawberry can be used actually as a hand and a body washing material. So for example, like after wetting our hands, so like we just need to rub them between our palm, and then they will just, you know, lather up quickly. And the strawberry actually contains saponin, which has a strong decontamination ability. So like hands like these fruits can be used by even, you know, like the modern people to clean themselves during an emergency. And apart from securing biodiversity, like the garden also has helped to reduce the urban heat. As you know that nowadays Tokyo is really, really hot. And when we visited the site, like the temperature reached almost like 38 degrees Celsius, and it was really, really scorching hot. But by the time that we entered the center and visited the garden, we noticed how this, you know, garden has a cooling effect that can help urban residents combat the summer heat. While in the second case, so like we also found like a similar cooling effect, like the surface temperature, like during our visit was about 36 degrees Celsius. But by the time we entered the site, we noticed how the area offered, you know, like that kind of a cooler environment for the visitors. And yeah, this site is actually larger than the first one, but unlike Jomong Village, like this site is mostly surrounded by the residential areas. So like the site itself, of course, like over more green areas than the first one. And the second role is the, the ability to preserve like ancient wisdom and basic survival skills. So like, as you can see here, like both sides actually help visitors to understand what is and what is not edible in our surrounding environment. And by showing this type of Jomon diet, it guides, you know, like modern people to forage in case they need to go from like place to place, searching for something that they can eat or, you know, use during an emergency or like a crisis if it strikes like the city. And in the case of like this Jomong Village, like the center actually offers a lot of programs for local residents to learn about ancient wisdom, as well as like the basic survival skills. So like they have this, you know, like this, the annual program. And like during its annual events, like the center actually teaches visitors how to make coordinates, such as like the string, thread, or like rope from natural materials. And these coordinates play such, you know, important roles in the fashion and daily tools of the Jomong people. And for sure that it can also be used by us, you know, like in a survival situation. So like the center's annual events have always drawn many enthusiasts and families interested in ancient civilization. And the same with this Casa de Salmon, like this facility also offers visitors, you know, like many opportunities, if I may say, to learn about the past civilization and the lifestyle itself. Like throughout summers, like the volunteers, they assist visitors to learn about, for example, like this, how to start a fire using a leaf and a simple tool. And they have many courses to entertain as well and to educate visitors during the weekend. And similarly, like the volunteer group itself has helped many senior citizens to find their second life. And according to like one volunteer, they often go to, you know, like various archaeological sites together with the team. Not only to learn, you know, about like the other civilization, but also to strengthen their bonding. And the next role is related to this awareness raising about the threats of urbanization and the ability of the community to preserve the archaeological sites. Okay. So for example, like Jombang Village has a specific display to inform like the before and after excavation site, as you can see here. So this is the before and this is the after situation. So it informs like the visitors about the sites that could not be preserved due to the urbanization pressure. So as Tamanyu Tower is situated as, well, kind of like pretty close to the central Tokyo. So it actually, you know, like one of the famous residential areas in Japan. And apparently it was really challenging for the archaeologists to preserve the excavation sites from the highly land demand, like for the development. And through this display, like the facility tries to raise awareness of the battle between these prehistoric sites preservation and urban development. And yeah, meanwhile, in this Kasori Salman Chiba, like the facility showcased the ability of the local communities movement to preserve like the prehistoric sites despite the highland demand to support the development of Chiba City in the 1960s, as you can see here. And it teaches the people what can be done to protect the urban land, perceived as important for, like the environmental or like urban sustainability. But compared to the Jombang village, like we can see the display and equipment in this facility are a bit outdated, but still the presence of volunteers and like various events somehow help to increase the attractiveness of the site to modern families. Because I don't really have much time. So like, let me just like conclude this one. Like as the project is still ongoing and I'm still exploring like other research sites, perhaps like these two statements are the message that I want to share for today. And I'm specifically amazed at what the two sites have done to preserve the exact same vegetation that was used by the Jombang people to survive during the Paleolithic and transition to the Neolithic era. So it makes me look back at my own survival ability and question what is left in our cities. So for example, like, do we have enough green spaces and like, the trees that can be used by urban residents when disaster or other crises strike? I believe it will be, wasteful if we have this type of foraging knowledge, for example, but there are no edible plants or fish left in our river. So yeah, I would like to again state the roles of these remaining sites in maintaining the urban biodiversity, reducing urban heat, and also connecting the communities, especially the senior citizens. As you know, that Japan is currently dominated by the senior, like population. And today there is still very limited research exploring like the roles of these remaining archaeological sites in the cities, like from the interdisciplinary lenses. And the two presented here demonstrated the roles that they can play in harnessing urban resilience and provided like more justification for us, like for why these sites must be preserved and protected from urban development pressure. So let me end my presentation here. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Burila, for your interesting presentation. It's nice to hear the whole German communities, German period, and their contribution to build. As your last point, this will benefit the urban communities in the long run. While it's of course more interesting if we discuss this later, but now I will give the opportunity for the second presenter. The second speaker is Dr. Nur Rahman Wijaya. He is an assistant professor at the Department of Urban and Regional Planning at Bandung Institute of Technology, Indonesia. He received his bachelor degree from ITB in 2004 and pursued 2 master degrees in urban and regional planning at ITB and urban environmental management from the Asian Institute of Technology in Thailand. In 2020, he completed his PhD in urban environmental management, also from AIT, and his research focuses on the relationship between urban development and climate adaptation in Southeast Asia, including Indonesia. Currently, he is working on a research project to integrate climate change issues into urban development policies, including assessing urban climate resilience. Pak Nur Rahman will present a topic on the framework development to assess urban climate resilience. So Pak Nur Rahman will have 50 minutes presentation and will remind you 3 minutes before your time ends.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Fikri. Oh, I'm going to share my PowerPoint. So here, yeah. Okay, as mentioned by Dr. Fikri, my presentation is about developing the urban climate resilient framework assessment, especially in the context of Indonesia. So here I have 5 points that I will deliver about. Actually, this is ongoing research from my research teams and also collaboration with the University of Twente. So I have also a professor to help for doing this research. So it is ongoing. So I will show about the preliminary results start from this year, and I hope it can be done in the end of this year. So here there are some contents like the introduction, background, objective, and motivation of the study. And explain about then from this primary result. Okay, as we know that climate change related disaster and their impacts have significantly influenced the urban development. For instance, we can see that the increase in the frequency of the rainfall and the long dry season have several negative impacts. It also has significantly affected the decline in the socioeconomic condition, especially in the urban population. It has even impacted the condition of urban infrastructure and supporting infrastructure. Indonesia is a country that has vulnerability to types of this natural disaster. This result in many loss and also damage, not only direct and also indirect impact, such as casualties, damage to facilities and infrastructure, loss of valuables, damage to the environment, as well as the psychology of disaster victims. Data from the Disaster Management Agency state that 95% of disaster events in Indonesia are closely related to climate. Floods occupy the highest position, is about 34%. From several cases of disaster event, the impact of climate change directly affect the level of urban resilience. And the phenomenon of urbanization is a challenge for the city government to provide space allocation and the needs of its facility and infrastructure. Indonesia is one of the global south countries that is facing the issue of urban development. So, assessing the level of urban resilience due to impact of the climate change is essential to identify the appropriate strategies and recommendations to reduce the risks and impacts. Some literature discussing the assessment of urban resilience have developed rapidly in the last two decades. Here, the motivation of this research initiated based on 2 main concerns, practical and the theoretical concerns. In terms of the practical concerns, we know that we are in the end of the Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030, in the near future. It's a need to re-evaluate of the climate-related goals, strategies, and policy, particularly in the public decision makers. In addition, global warming has risen faster than expected in the recent years. So it is urgent needs to create climate change resilience in the face of recent climate-related disaster. Regarding the theoretical concern, it bridges the gap between theory, policy, and practice, and also update known theory on climate resilience strategies with recent practice and policy, and also to accommodate gap between quantitative or spatial analysis of climate change resilience with the policy and urban level. So this study builds actionable framework to evaluate climate change resilience for policy evaluation and formulation. So the purpose of this research is to evaluate the level of urban climate-related disaster resilience. The the selected cities will be identified based on the size of the coastal cities, large, medium, and small, the potential leading sector, and the type of the impact. For this study purpose, we select only 3 kind of the hazard: drought, urban flood, and the coastal floods. The result of this research can be used to provide the method. We are doing the visualization of knowledge network in urban climate resilience using a force viewer to confirm the result, to check the validate of the result from some literature. Also exploratory literature review of related variable in urban climate resilience. So the first specific objective is to identify the assessment framework, to develop the assessment framework. So from the keyword urban resilience and climate change, we collect about 60,000 reference, and after some step, we exclude some not important, like not English reference and etc. So we found only 57 reference that we use for this developing of the framework. And then we use a force viewer related to the topic about the infrastructure, urban form, and temperature from 2017 and until 2022. So here, after we grouping, we found there are 6 clusters. For example, the red color focusing more on the assessment and the monitoring, participatory, and stakeholder, and also about the indicators. Cluster 2 is focusing on the scientists base. Cluster 3 focusing on the urban ecosystem and urban heat or mitigation policies. Cluster 4 focusing the urban planning, policy adaptation. Cluster 4 focusing the governance and adaptive management. And cluster 6 is focusing the decision making. After we see from this 6 group, so we can see there are 3 concerns related to urban climate resilience: practical, so science, and the policy concern. We want to develop this framework to assess urban resilience, especially in the coastal city in Indonesia. So we focus on 3 hazards as a direct effect: drought, coastal flood, and urban flood. And for the indirect effect related to water quality, air pollution, land use change, ecological change, social well-being, also affect to the public health. And we also use the resilient concept to adapt, to recover, to resist, and to absorb. And we found from the urban climate resilience, there are 3 concerns like science, practical, and policy governance. So here, we selected some key variables, and also some dimension, including economic, social, infrastructure, government, regulation, and environment. For example, for economic, we will consider about the income, finance support, insurance, diversific regulation. We will see about the land use plan or master plan that they have established, and we see that is there any concern in the land use regulation or spatial plan related to the climate change issue. From this, we will see from the previous established framework that we can use to develop in Indonesian context. For example, like to resist, like from Lee study, to resist can be related to infrastructure, coping capacity related to population or socio-economic, and recovery and adaptive capacity is more. This is the selected case study that we'll do maybe in next month, we will try to do observation and collecting the data after we develop the framework. So we select Cirebon as the small coastal city, Lampung as the medium, and the large in Semarang. Why we choose this? Because we know they already have developed the master plan related to resilience and also the impact of climate change related disaster to those cities. So finally, this can be a conclusion or the key takeaways from our literature review, that first, there's need to be more connection. Or special. As we know, Indonesia, we have a new regulation related to spatial plan, and fortunately, they mentioned that by establishing or producing the spatial plan, we need to analyze about the climate change. So it will be nice, but we don't know how this integrated spatial modeling of climate change has become part of urban planning practice. So now, mostly, if we see that mostly in urban planning, climate issue just only for the background information, not for embedded as a plan. So if we can see like we have a data about the climate and then put also in the future. But now mostly they just only for the information. So here we think we need to think about this. And the third, is there a global or replicable approach for climate change resilience at the national policy level? So we need to think also this kind of the topics or the framework that can be established not only in a local but also in national level. Okay, I think that's all from me. Thank you for your attention. Back to moderator. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Pak Nur Rahman, for your interesting presentation. There are some points or takeaways I got from Pak Nur Rahman. Disasters in countries like Indonesia are triggered by climate change, and therefore there is a need to develop a framework, a workable or replicable framework for climate change resilience, and integrate this issue in national and local policies. We'll talk about this later, and for now I will give the last but not least opportunity for the third presenter, Dr. Yan Sali Rahayu. Dr. Sali Rahayu is a postdoctoral fellow at the University of from Institute of Teknologi Bandung in 2005. After doing private sector research, she pursued academia and earned an MSc in agriculture from Kagoshima University in 2014. In 2021, she completed her PhD in global agricultural sciences and an interdisciplinary social design and management program at the University of Tokyo. Her research focuses on re-evaluating biodiversity in today's society. She explored the biodiversity of Indonesian medicinal plants within intercultural health practices and wild edible fruits in Bhutan. Currently, she is working on a project to mainstream the sustainable use of wild edible plant biodiversity for improved food and nutrition as well as food system resilience. Today, she will be presenting a topic on mainstreaming biodiversity for nutrition and health and well-being of rural people. Bu Sali, please. Bu Sali actually is present here in Bandung, so she's not presenting from Tokyo. So welcome, Bu Sally, and you have 15 minutes to present your talk, and we'll discuss later in the last session.
Let me sit there. Okay, it's not changing. Changing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So thank you for having me. Oh, di mute aja. Okay. Thank you for having me. Still? What should I? Oh, maybe not too close. That's okay. Okay. Thank you for having me, everyone. And thank you for kind introductions. So agak dekat. I'm sorry. So in these sessions, we're gonna talk a link between share my latest research findings in the last 1.5 or almost 2 years during my postdoctoral tenure, University of Tokyo, and Java as case study. So let's bear with me in the next 15 minutes. So a little bit back species disregarding the diversity of nutrient-rich plants that has been used historically, especially in diets of the community. Currently, we 20,000 of available edible plants. So our diet has become monotonous, caloric dense, low in micronutrient, leading to increased health issue related to trends to mainstream biodiversity for food, nutrition, and health has gained plans, or we're going to call it OneUp, have emerged as promising avenue to address this food system issue and nutritional disparity. But the evidence is broader adoption zones by exploring the possibility of OneUp to improve in rural areas. What kind of species of OneUp that are nutritionally significant, and how are these plants used in dietary practice of rural community, and how these plant consumptions may impact health and well-being of rural people. So what is plants or wild plants will be used interchangeably. So wild edible plants, in my research context, it's a species between, and many wild edible plants fall somewhere in between these two conditions. And in this study, the term WNEP is extended to encompass both wild and semi-domesticated edible plants. So are these? Yes, the habit of by some local or indigenous community in rural or remote areas in Indonesia. And these species appear to provide rich nutritional value, especially micronutrients. And on the top of that, to meet the increasing global food demand, finding healthy alternatives like these underutilized species may become necessary. Is there any? Unmute. That's that. Okay. Let's continue. Oops. So yeah. What was okay? So this one up still relevant with today society, and this provide nutrient important micronutrients and sorry, and this is particularly relevant to meet the increasing global food demands. Finding a healthy alternative like underutilized species, including these wild food resources, may become necessary. And I want to show the example of WNEPs. Here are some wild edible fruit of Eastern Bhutan that was documented in my previous project in 2021. And here are examples of wild edible plants of Japan known as sansai, translated as mountain vegetables. And these are some of native plants documented in Siberut of Mentawai Island, documented by my research collaborator at SITH ITB. And these plants are used by indigenous people in their diet. So back to my study. Through this case study, as I mentioned earlier, we tried to answer the 3 research questions. And to achieve this objective, the study was structured into 3 phases. Ethnobotanic survey was conducted in phase 1. In phase 2, we conducted a nutrient intake assessment among 107 rural women. And in phase 3, we examined self-reported health-related quality of life. So far, we have done all the 3 phases except for the result triangulations that will be conducted next month. So let's proceed to the main point. Result 1, from the ethnobotany study, we documented 53 species of WNEP belonging to 27 family. And these are the example of the documented plants, and maybe some of audience here already familiar. Like my favorite is Pilea melastomoides, which is poh-pohan in Sundanese, or Crasos, right? Crasocephalum, or in Sundanese we call it sintrong. Also my favorite. Actually, I like them all. So okay, so this is the part of a full list. Evaluations based on the literature and lab analysis reveal that these documented wild plants have superior nutritional value compared to common vegetable. And I'm not going to show the full list as it's going to be long. And this is the percentage contributions of these plants to RDA of some essential nutrients. And again, I'm not going to show the full list here, only the example. But the most important thing that these findings highlight the diverse range of plant-based protein source. For example, this Moringa oleifera, or maybe you know as kelor, and also sintrong, again, apparently these two species has a high level of protein. So this can significantly contribute to meeting protein requirement and may serve as an alternative to soybean, which in Indonesian context most commonly consume plant-based protein. So here I compare the nutritional value of some documented WNAP with the common vegetable. For example, some documented species like dewa leaves or sweet potato leaves have better fiber content than cabbage or kale. And then we see here jotang and katuk leaves. I'm not gonna say the Latin names, so just Indonesian name, are better in terms of calcium, like much better than the widely used kangkung and lettuce. Similarly, for other documented WNAPs in the study, they demonstrate higher iron than spinach and higher zinc zinc content than broccoli. So it's the result. This result is very encouraging to me. So let's move on to next result. Okay, so the use trend. From the quantitative and qualitative approach, we found that most of respondents agreed that consumptions of this species has declined, and mainly due to perceived reductions in availability. And then we compare the motivations of using WNAP versus common vegetable. So what's interesting is that we found that while economic factor, which is getting free food, was perceived as necessary, important for both plants, the importance of having medicinal value and personal factor like taste and nostalgia were more emphasized for WNAP. And move on to the next result, result 2, daily nutrient intake. As seen in, okay, still, okay, so result 2, daily nutrient intake, as seen in table 1, most of the participants of this study met the minimum dietary diversity for women, meaning they at least consuming 5 different food groups in this indicator. But as we can see here in the table 2, we found indications of micronutrient deficiency of almost all micronutrients except for sodium, copper, and phosphorus. So meeting dietary diversity on the one hand, but low in inadequate of micronutrients on the other hand. And this is the, I'm just gonna show these are a table of main contributor to the intake of each nutrient by different food group. The yellow mark, meaning the food group that may contain WNAPs consumed by the study subject. So I'll move on to last finding, result 2, on the relationship between WNAP intake and health-related quality of life. We found that WNAP intake is associated with self-assessed general and mental health. So the higher intake, the better assessment on general health, and those who consume more WNAP tend to have better mental health. To summarize, the key findings are that the available WNAP provide essential nutrient and some have superior value to common vegetable, and WNAP intake is associated with better general and mental health. At the same time, this study also captured micronutrients micronutrient deficiencies among rural women. Therefore, we argue that promoting WUNEP offer the potential for both improved nutrition and health and well-being of rural people in these study locations. But as this resource decline in the nature, promoting their biodiversity for improved nutrition must also promote their sustainable use. And in relations to today's topic, resilient, mainstreaming, we can say that mainstreaming WUNEP biodiversity is one way to address the current food system issues and create a more resilient and sustainable food system that enhance human health. So that's all my result. Before I end this presentation, I want to show a 1-minute footage of an activity related to white edible plant that we did at Tokyo College of University of Tokyo. We did white edible walk around Tokyo last spring. This activity led, oh, okay, it's lagging. So it's led by Professor Mino Takahashi, the Deputy Director of Tokyo College. Okay, I'm sorry, doesn't work. Yeah, it's working only on my computer. Okay, lagging. Okay, okay. So Professor Mino is Deputy Director. He is from engineering, but he is wild edible enthusiast. So he organized this activity. This is around our campus. We found this wild edible. Okay, that's the end of this clip. That's all for me. Oh, sorry. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Bu Sally, for your interesting presentation. Not only because I hear Pohan and Syndrome, which are also my favorite, but also this is kind of alternative edible plants that actually have certain nutrients too that can increase their biodiversity resilience. Also, it is, as you also mentioned, it's important to promote this issue by it must also be accompanied by promoting their sustainable use. So the three presenters have given their presentation. Now it's time for discussion. For the first opportunity, I will call upon our discussant, Associate Professor Megumi Kagawa of the School of Social Sciences at Waseda University. Kagawa Sensei has been researching rebel governance and peace building at the national grassroots level in southern Philippines since 2011. While engaging in academic work, she implemented JICA-funded peace building capacity development project for the Bangsamoro government in Mindanao, the Philippines. She worked as a program advisor at the Secretariat of International Peace Cooperation Headquarters at the Cabinet Office in the Government of Japan and operated its PKO missions in DRC, Timor-Leste, and Nepal. She worked at the Atlantic Council of the United States in Washington, D.C. as a secretary to a former Japanese parliament member and youth capacity development projects at UNO. What a CV, Professor Kagawa. I hope that you have followed the presentations. We apologize for the inconvenience due to the bad connections, but I will now hand over to you for your discussion if you have any slides or it's also possible if you can just use your microphone. Please go.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for giving an opportunity to speak about the, discuss about the 3 topics, very important topics for recent days. Dr. Lila talked about the archaeological site, how people, it's becoming like a community space, and then use it for the sustainable development, and also the, it's a knowledge, trying to learn the knowledge from there. And that's somehow it's survival skills, resilience we learned from the Jomon time. And that was interesting to see. As a Japanese, I learned it like in elementary school, but she sees differently. So it's kind of interesting to see how she says it's a resiliency. And then Dr. Noor, sorry, it was very choppy for me, so I'm not sure how much I could get it well. But I read your slide one by one, so I hope I did understand. It's about the development, but it's also focusing on the 3 effect: drought, urban flooding, and the coastal flooding. Right? Okay, good. So that part was choppy, so I could not hear. And then I think that's the Indonesia and Japan and many coastal countries share the same problem, especially for the Pacific countries. And it was interesting to see that how you divided the key variables within the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's very holistic way to handle the climate change and then resiliency. So I wish to hear more like how Indonesian, like a case study, how Indonesia will handle with this in the future. And for the Dr. Sally, she talks about, it was very interesting to see the 20,000 species of eatable plants, and we only tend to eat it like a very few. And so that tells like my childhood. I grew up in a countryside, so I used to eat a lot of eatable, wild eatable food, vegetable. And so now I can point to even in Tokyo, I can see, oh, this is I can eat, this is I cannot eat. But I think those who grown up in urban area, they might not know what is eatable, what is not eatable. It is the dandelion everywhere in Japan, and then not many people knows whether they can eatable and how to eat it. So in case of the crisis, it could be difficult for them to survive. But that's a good point. So we should learn how to eat the eatable vegetable. And then it's listening a 3 presentation, I believe there's one same challenges is a promotion, or how civilian or ordinary people will understand about these resiliencies, capacity of the resiliency. So I like to ask a question about the how do you like to promote this knowledge to the people who might face most vulnerable people, especially vulnerable people may not be understand that what could be the one could be eatable, how we avoid flooding. So how we can share these knowledge or you are finding to the ordinary people. And then it sounds like indigenous knowledge is where we discover what we value ourselves now. So how we can maybe also raising your identities and self-reliance and the self-resiliences, and it's everything related into. So it also give you a more healthy pride to be certain ethnic groups. It could be the it can be promoted to their knowledge and also their healthy mentality too. So I like to invite you to the speaker. So how do you share or promote the knowledge of your finding to the people, not only like us on this web conference, but also for the ordinary people. They really need to have these survival skills.
Thank you, Sensei, for your comments and question. I think the question is clear enough for the speakers, right? So I would like to invite the speakers who would like to start. Yeah, so I will mute first, and then you can.
Okay, thank you, Sensei, for your comments. You're raising a very important point here, which the point that I always carry during conducting this experiment during conducting this research, because it will be meaningless if we cannot share back this knowledge to the one who need it, right? The one who most need it. So given that thought, for me personally, related to my research, I've been thinking about this a lot, and how can I not only share with the science community, or let's say policymakers. I also have some kind of agenda to do some kind of giving back to community thing, where I will be sharing all my finding, because this is really timely and really relevant with the situations, in particular in my study locations. So as I mentioned in my presentations, there's indications of micronutrients. So I really want them to know that actually the solutions is in front of them, surrounding, it's abundant, it's free. So when I during my interview with them, my observations, actually not because the availability, but also because they don't know that these species are nutritious. So obviously, the major thing for me is to share this knowledge that I get from them, and giving back this knowledge to them, so they can really use it in practical in their daily use right now. So I actually plan this activity, like with the community, in my study locations. We're going to do some kind of event to, where I socialize this finding, which of species that actually available around them, but actually has a better nutrition. So that kind of, I will start with that kind of small step to, distribute all this finding to them in a way that they can easily understand, or like accessible to them. So probably that's from me.
Thank you, Bu Sally. Maybe Pak Nurrahman will continue.
Okay, thank you, Sensei Megumi Kagawa, for your valuable comments about how to promote our result, our finding to the community, especially who get the effect from the flood or another hazard. Sometimes we realize that the people, they don't know that they already in the risk area, in the prone area. So here, as a scientist or as a academician, sometimes we also have no connection between the scientist result, and there is no connection between policy making and etc. So here, I hope from this result or from this study, I want to build the connection. So there is the policy evidence based on the evidence from our finding, so we can make a more powerful policy. So sometimes we know, like some area, they develop the policy. Sometimes like I heard from the news that we build the roads near the coastal, and its effect to the infrastructure and effect to the people. And sometimes if there is sea rise, it also destroy the infrastructure. So it will destroy also the another aspect socioeconomic. So here, or we can call it a small adaptation concept. So we want from this study, from building the framework, and it's So from the key variables, so we can identify which one is the lesser or the small point. So we can focus on that that point. So we can develop. For example, like if this is still ongoing. So I don't know which one is more resilient, the small, the medium, or the large city, because mostly funding is much better in, or the quality or the capacity of the government is better in the large city. But we don't know which one is better. Maybe the small is more resilient in another size of the city. So here, it is my assumption, but I hope we can find, and we hope from this research we can also convince, also inform the decision makers. They have to understand, to aware about the climate-related disaster, because it's not only affect to one aspect, but also all of the aspect. So we hopefully can get a good result and convince the policymakers, especially for developing the development plan, also the spatial plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Rahman. Next, Bu Rila.
Okay, thank you, Megumi, for your question. Well, that's pretty hard. Like, as you know, that this research actually, like sparked my interest in human civilization, and I'm planning to promote it, like, more with the general people, as there are many interesting findings that I want to share. But of course, like before that, I need to advance my understanding first. Like, we have currently like observed 9 sites in total, but have not had enough chance to analyze them. But I guess the museums in Japan, many local museums, they do such good jobs in actually promoting such knowledge to the visitors. Like from what I've heard, they usually welcome about 40,000, if I'm not mistaken, like visitors per year. And then even after COVID-19, like they had to limit the capacity, like for the event, but still there were many applications, so like indicating like such high interest in understanding the ancient civilization. And I do believe that I also like listen to like the struggles of like the like archaeological center stuff. For example, like maybe like as an outsider, I do understand that they have a lot of events for the families, for like elementary school children, also for the senior citizens. And I do questions like what are the strategies to draw like more young people to participate in this type of event. So as you mentioned that you remember about this civilization when you studied around elementary school, right? So they say that that's actually like the best time for them to educate, like the people, because they are not busy yet. So like they said, the struggle to actually draw like more young people to the museums is that because in Japan, they have such education pressure. So they say that we will not try to draw the high schoolers to come to our museum because we know that they are really busy, and we know that understanding this might not be their priority because they have to pass the jukang. It's like their life. And after that, then they will start to, draw the attention of the university students. And then many local students actually participate as the volunteers as well, like during the events. But I guess this is really interesting for me because this is pretty new. I mean, like, because I grew up in the urban area, so like I don't even know like which plant can I eat and which is not. So like living in Japan, I noticed how Japanese they do love vegetables a lot, and also this type of the wild edible plants. So I started to, well, let's say like consume dandelion even. Usually I just, like share it with my rabbit. But now after listening to like some of my colleagues that they're actually edible, so I started to actually use it in my salad bar. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of like yeah, I mean like your question actually like well like sparked my interest in delivering this research project to the general public. Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone. That's
Yeah.
from me.
Thank you very much, Burila and other presenters who already replied to the question. This is a very important question because, you know, as a scientist or academician, communicating our research and our value to general people and also to the government, for example, industry is kind of, it's not always easy and challenging. And as we've discussed so far, we have very much you know some research is kind of, you know, really new and pioneering in the field, and it's important to for us to communicate the results to the public and also to, in our context in urban and regional planning to the government. Kagawa Sensei, do you have any more points or questions to ask? I think you should
Promotion
unmute.
was kind of my challenge because Dr. Sally's knowledge is kind of again what I have to ask my mom or grandma, what can we eat and what can we not eat. Other than that, there's no way to learn about the eatable vegetables and then fruits. So, or I just carefree observe birds and then animals. If they're eating, maybe we can eat too. So, but other than that, it's there is no one will inform you about what could be the eatable, what will not be eatable. And another challenge is how to eat. When I'm trying to introduce good nutrition to the my people in the Philippines, they always wonder how to cook. And then I know how to cook in Japanese way, but maybe not good for you, your taste or texture. So maybe we need to collaborate with other people who could be a chef or anyone can promote it, these eatable vegetable for sustainable development. So there are so many sectors we need to go for. So I think a university is a good place to start, and then trying to reach out to as many people as possible. And then young people, I can see, is this a class? I think it's young people in students. I think they're students, right? Okay. I think they can bring this knowledge back to home and then talk with elders, and the elder will be happy to teach them about the what could be eaten, what could be not eatable, and how they eat it. And then they can bring back home. Indonesia is very diverse area. Every region has a different taste. So it could be nice to see a cooking book. That would be the one trying to promote by can publish or can reach by the anything like a social media. So that could be another way to reach. And then I love Indonesian food, so I really look forward to seeing recipes. So how do you think?
Yeah, Bu Sally, do you want to respond to that?
Just quick response. Thank you, Megumi Sensei, for your suggestions. Very interesting. Maybe next step after community engagement, next step is what? YouTuber engagement. But yeah, I actually now planning to publish a pictorial book about these edible plants, and I'm still on the process of compiling all these materials. And hopefully the next step is or maybe this pictorial book can add information such how to cook. The one that I use I use as reference is Japanese. In Japanese, actually, it's a guidebook of wild edible, not necessarily edible, but wild plants in Japan, and some of these plants can be is edible, and they tell how to cook this, because some cannot be just boiled and some was good only to cook as tempura, for example. So that kind of information, it's very interesting and important to promote this kind of this underutilized spaces. So thank you for your suggestion.
Thank you very much, Bu Sally. Any other comments from the speakers? You want to add something, Pak Nur Rahman or Bu Rila? No? No.
Well, can I ask
Sensei, do you
one?
still have any
Yes.
points? Yeah, please.
May I ask one general question? In Indonesia, you are moving your capital to the Selama Island. So how the ordinary people or how scientists think about it? Like what could be the scientific impact or sustainable development impact? Because it's a flooding, that's why you're moving out, right?
All right, this is not very easy question, but I will give the opportunity to Pak Nur Rahman first to respond to that.
Yeah, it's interesting question about how we consider about the local community in there. Yeah, I think government is already consider that they need to be accommodate, don't relocate them to another place. So we have to things they include in the planning. So as I understand, the new capital, yes, yeah. Yeah, I don't know which because there are many perspective about this. So yeah, in one point, yeah, we know the current situation in capital is small, already have crowded and also have more pollution and also many people. So the government want to move to another place in Kalimantan is a new area. So related to your question, I think yeah, we need to consider about this sustainability is not only the environment, economic, but also the social. So we have to think and also don't make a bother of the local community, especially they are also like indigenous or tribes communities over there, and we have to include in all of the process of the planning. So if you think about this, the plan will be smooth. Yeah, this is my thinking. So yeah, I hope answer your question.
Thank you. Maybe Bu Rila can add something.
Okay, thank you, Megumi, for your question. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that because I don't have enough knowledge about like the relocation plan. So, but I'm not sure. I think that I noticed that there is someone who can actually answer that. Oh, but he's not here. Yes, he's actually like working on the Arif. Can you help us to answer the question? So Arif is actually graduated from our School of Social Science. He's currently working at the Ministry of Public Works, so maybe he can share something if he is still in this room. Oh, or maybe later on he can answer it. Yeah, but yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any response, or like I cannot give you any response yet. But yeah, like what is it, like Dr. Nur Rahman said, I just hope that this relocation will not harm the environment, and as we can learn from like the ancient civilization of Japan, so like how they do really care about like the environment, so they showed that they were not greedy enough to utilize all the natural resources there. So I do hope that we can take such lesson when developing like our future cities, if I may say. Yeah, because I mean, like even our ancestor was wise enough to manage their environment. So why can we? So probably that's all from me. Thank you. Maybe Sally can continue.
Yeah, Bu Sally, if you want to. Yeah.
Yeah, just as Riela, I also don't have knowledge or don't have capacity to answer about this thing, but I agree with Pak Nur Rahman that the process should be inclusive. The approach should be inclusive. Consider all the local people. And what interesting to me about this process, I actually against of this kind of moving thing, actually, to be honest. So I don't really pro, make something broken and then you just move to another place instead of fixing it. So but anyway, it's already done deal. It's in the process, it's happening. So for me, not only the people in the Borneo, in Kalimantan that needs to be considered, but also people in Jakarta. So what are these governments gonna do, like in terms of fixing all the flood and something like that? So yeah, that's all I can say. That's I don't really bottom line, I don't really have important comment on this. I also asking the same questions with you. Yeah. So
Thank you very
thank you.
much. I think the capital relocation suggests a lot of challenges. Most of the issues are related to sustainability, and also resilience, in multi aspects of life, including environment, also social and economic challenges. But I think for yeah, because we have our main topic on harnessing urban and regional resilience in the face of global crisis. Maybe you can elaborate more on this issue, if I may. Kagawa Sensei, do you have any more questions or comments? And if not, that thank you very much for your feedback. Now we'll have some time for questions and answer from the audience. Is there anybody wants to start asking questions or comments from the those who attending in person here at ITB, or audience from Zoom? Any comments or questions? No, Sisi? Yes.
Yeah, I really interested. Okay, sorry. Okay, my name is Nur Aziza. I am from SAPK ITB, and I am really interested in food security issues and also malnutrition and also poverty because it's all are related. What I want to know is that malnutrition, food insecurity, and also poverty is all are happened in the urban area and also rural area. And as a diversification and maybe a more affordable alternative to the food intake for the society, is it possible for the wild edible plants being implemented in the urban area? If so, with the different characteristic that urban and rural has, what possibly are the adjustment or challenges that may emerge to also to be able to coping with the malnutrition and food security when bringing WUNEP or wild edible plant into the urban area? Thank you.
Yeah, very good question, Sisi. I also have another question for Bu Sally. from Bu Kiki. Thank you for your lovely presentation, Saira Hayu. I really enjoy it. I'd like to know whether in Indonesia or maybe you yourself have made a collaboration efforts to promote the food resilience with government or industry sectors like companies, grocery or retail networks. If there is any, can you give me some examples? I think I will give the opportunity for Busali first before having other questions.
Okay, thank you for the questions. Unmute. Okay, thank you for all the good questions. And can I just answer this quickly from Kiki? So the answer is quick no, not yet, at least at this point. But I think this is a very good good advice, a good idea to collaborate with more relevant stakeholders to be able to increase the impact of these promotions of biodiversity. So that's my quick answers. And thank you for Nur Aziza for the questions. We got to talk before I started the seminar, and she was very into my research. And yeah, I'm so happy to find someone that really interested in this topic as me. And so to answer that questions, I think yes, theoretically at least, yes, this biodiversity, this underutilized species can really based on my findings, we can see right that this has a potential to meeting all the dietary requirement, all the necessary macro and micronutrients, right? And these all resources are abundant surrounding us, right? And for rural population, yes, it's it's abundant, it's available. All they have to do is to understand this benefit, right? But what about the urban populations, right? So it's your questions, how to apply this, right? So I think the approach here, it's not only to ask people to to use like the wild the free available species, but also encourage them to do domestications. So for example, in Indonesia, we have Warung Hidup program or something like that, which not only in rural area, but also in urban area, right? So something like that can be incorporated into government program, which can be so applicable in all area, right? So domestications is the keyword for this to be applicable in not only rural but urban populations. So and also I think the ultimate goal of promoting this underutilized species is for the agricultural, the mainstream agriculture to not only focus on the common crops or a common vegetable, but also to stimulate their interest into this kind of species. If the demand is exists, and they try the productions, it will stimulate. So it's going to be circular, I think. So the expected effect, it's like kind of ripple effect at this point in the outside rural population. So I hope that this agenda can be applied in all area, not only urban but also regional, I think. So yeah, I hope that's answered your questions. If not, we can chat after this.
Thank you very much, Busali, for your answer. Any more questions, comments from the audience? If not, that I will ask another question. Maybe this is also the opportunity for the speakers to have your final say about this discussion. So we talk about resilience, and it seems that we talk about different definition of resilience, right? Because Pak Nur Rahman talks about disaster or climate change triggered disaster, which suggests more like socio-ecological resilience, or maybe another types of disaster resilience. Bu Rila talked about the archaeological aspects in urban resilience, which very much something that I couldn't imagine before, that this is something that we can also consider. Bu Sali talked about food resilience and alternatives to providing or to feeding people with something that actually exists in our lives. So talking about resilience, then as Kagawa Sensei also suggests, promoting resilience is something that is central in our discussion today. Uh, I wonder that what does resilience means to you? What does resilience mean to you in your context, in your food resilience, disaster resilience, urban resilience, in the concept of either modern or ancient lives? But what does it mean to you, and what is the main challenge in promoting the resilience in your case? Maybe who would like to start, Burila?
Okay. So yeah, thank you for your question. So as you know that my previous research was more into like child-friendly cities and also like the pop culture and cities. So these archaeological things is actually pretty new to me. But then when let's say that if you want to connect this with the resilience, like this course, so probably I would like to define this as the overall capacity of like, our cities to survive, or not only cities, probably the communities as well, to survive and adapt and thrive. And then like we know what to do if, for example, like the disaster strikes. So like we know, for example, how to find food to survive during the emergency. As you know that in Indonesia, for example, if the disaster happened, then we notice that the victims usually they wait quite long time to like get some aid from the donations, for example, from the and yeah, I think like from that question, I realized that we need a space that enables people to at least survive whenever unexpected thing happens in their cities. And also like it is really important to provide a space for the communities to work together. So you can imagine if we do not know each other, so we cannot trust, our, the people in our communities as well, then that will bring a big trouble, because if there is no trust, of course, that there will be no collaboration at all. And then like during, for example, like disaster, I'm sure that there will be like more conflicts, and it will be more difficult for cities to return to its original state. So maybe that's one of the things that I can share. I mean, related to this archaeological research. Thank you.
Thank you very much, wonderful Bu Rila. For you. Next, I will invite Pak Nur Rahman.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Fikri, for your question about what is my notion or definition about the resilience. From my perspective, resilience can be many concern or many definition belong with what our perspective. So it depends on our specialization or our context. For example, like me, resilient can be how we can adapt, how can we resilient, or how can we absorb from the impacts. In my case, it's like climate change. It can be any impact, like from the global health crisis that we have done in 2 years ago about the pandemic, how we reason with this kind of crisis, and etc. So It depends how we scope our definition. So I can not mention which one is the best of the definition of resilience. So it depends our understanding. Like Rila said, how it can be also one of the resilient concept. Archaeological is effect to reduce the urban heat as somehow, and also like food crisis and etc. It can be one of the example. But the more things that we have to understand that the resilience is how we adapt. We cannot back to the previous condition, but how we can adapt and reduce, minimize the impact. And yeah, we believe that we can survive. This is the important things that we can handle this impact and still alive. So yeah, not now, but also in the future condition. I think that's from my opinion.
Thank you, Pak Nur Rahman. And then Bu Sally.
Okay, thank you for the questions. In my research perspective, I also agree with Pan Rahman that from my research perspective, the food system resilience is to be able to sustain any negative disruptions, including like climate change or like disease disruptions, like during the COVID, and also shock or bottleneck in the supply chains. So being to be resilient in the food system is to be able to sustainably use all the resource or the valuable and available resource surrounding us. I think that's my short answer. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bu Sally, Pak Nur Rahman, and Bu Rila for your answers. I think the last question was the yeah, we have to wrap up our discussion today on resilience, multiple and different types of resilience, and we have learned a lot from the speakers, how they approach, how they define and approach resilience, and how they examine in each context. So resilience is kind of, a concept that depends on the conditions, or depends on the context in which it is being studied, or it is being examined. But we can also see that promoting and enhancing resilience is something that is challenging in any case. But from this perspective, we can see that it is important for us to, resilience doesn't mean, or becoming more resilient doesn't mean resilience itself, because we see resilience is something that is to be achieved in a long run, right? So it is important for us to learn and rethink about what we can see and we can achieve better in the next stage or in the future, and how we can promote our knowledge on resilience and any kinds of experiences during this research or learning to achieve better resilience in the future. I think because of the time, we have to conclude this session. Thank you very much for the speakers, also the discussant, who Professor Megumi Kagawa, Dr. Nur Rahman Wijaya, Dr. Yolanda Trianta, and Dr. Sally Rahayu for your interesting comments and speakers, the speech in this afternoon. I hope that the half the last half of this session is much better compared to the first half, because it is called Institute Technology, but we never know. Sometimes digital technology just hinders us from having a good discussion. But it's nice because we have collaborative seminar from 3 respective universities and institutions, and we hope that we can get another opportunity in the future to discuss another topic or another aspect in urban engineering development. Thank you. I will hand over back to the Master of Ceremony to continue this session.
Okay, thank you very much, Bapak Fikri Zulfahmi. It was a very intriguing and captivating discussion. Thank you very much to all the speakers, discussant, and the moderator for bringing such an insightful lecture. It definitely understanding about alternative approach to crisis. And again,
I would like to apologize for all the inconvenience that occurred during the event. Definitely, there'll be something painful and important.
nevertheless,
See you on the next presentation. Also, I would like to remind all the attendees regarding the base certificate.
okay, all the attendees are requested to fill
The provided link sent
in the comment chat.
before I officially close this webinar. We will have some photo session for all the guests and
Participate.
forward. We will have a photo
Session.
session. We hope the participants to join. Please turn on your camera.
Di sini aja.
So on the Zoom, we have 2 slides.
So we will take
Pictures twice
the first slide. I will come
from 1 to 3.
1,
2,
3. For the second slide, 1, 2. Okay, thank you so much. Finally, we have come to the end of our once again, thank you for everyone for grading our event with your presence. We really appreciate it. Till we meet again, Raja signing out. Good afternoon. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Recording stopped.